And there we are.
Good morning.
You just caught me. Are we on?
On us. You were yawning?
Yeah, I was yawning.
Wait, what do you mean, hold on? Brian Matthews, our director, is saying hold on. Do you think we're on, Brian?
I think
Now
we're on.
Our director says yes.
I saw
Good
the
morning.
picture. The picture told me we were on.
I know,
Now
that's
I know
usually
we're on.
what you go by.
Look who's
What do
here
you know?
joining
I
us.
know, it's so good to have you.
Good morning. It's a
Sunrise
Tuesday.
Extra brings extra people into the studio. Christine Pitawanich is with us. Ashley is dialing up the feed on Facebook right now, so you can follow your comments.
Here we go.
Sunrise Extra, if you're new to the game, this is the live streaming show. You can watch us on Facebook, on Instagram, on KGW.com. We're going to pick a conversation topic today that hopefully you'll weigh in on. And this one was the megaphone question on our Sunrise TV program this morning. And it has to do with the idea of kids and bulletproof backpacks. And I was thinking about you, Brenda, because when you started sending your kids to school a few decades ago, could you ever have imagined the day where you go, hey, consider your kid going with a bulletproof backpack?
Yeah, I can, because my daughter was born in 1998, and that was just like a couple months before Columbine. I mean, I remember sitting there in the glider rocker, nursing my little baby, and watching that horror on TV. So yeah, unfortunately I can. It's been going on way too long.
I have to tell you, another thing that's striking me there, the fact that Jaden, who I know now is 21 or 22, or you just said 98, like the fact that that was 1998, it seems like she would have been 21 a long time ago. I can't believe that was already 21 years ago,
know, it's so
Columbine. So that's when we asked the question today, it was basically stated, right, would you, or do you think it's necessary for kids to
kids need these backpacks?
Do kids need these bulletproof backpacks? And the overwhelming majority of people we can see, if you're watching on the Facebook feed right now, you can see as well, and I'll let our Instagram followers know, 82% of our viewers said no. Only 18% of people said yes. Kids do need, and the word was need, these bulletproof backpacks. So if you have a comment to go with that vote, please let us know why you're weighing in with a yes or no this morning.
And Christine, you did a story on this today. So what did you kind of find out about the sales? I know it sounds like they're skyrocketing.
Yeah, and I mean, from our viewers, 82% say no, they don't think that these backpacks are necessary, but a lot of these companies are seeing a huge increase in sales. One company said they got, I don't know, their sales increased 200% or so at least after these recent mass shootings. Other sites are seeing their sales go up too, and a lot of parents are just saying, you know, whether this happens or not, this gives me some sense of, you know, security.
You pointed out something really interesting, though, when we were in the show this morning, and you said this does not protect anybody from a big gun, like an assault-style rifle.
Right.
This is handgun.
Yes, so one of the manufacturers went on the Today Show, and he was explaining the construction and what bullets, these types of backpacks and inserts that you can put inside backpacks, what kinds of bullets they, you know, protect against. He was saying handguns, yes, those bullets, these do protect against, but those more high-powered guns like those assault-style rifles, no. And there have been a couple of sister stations, you know, NBC stations that have gone out and tested these backpacks with, you know, the regular handguns versus the more assault-style rifles, and it does not hold up against those assault-style rifles.
I mean, there's no question here that it's sad we even have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Kids shouldn't have to wear this and be worried about this at school, but that's the reality in which we live right now. I think the problem I see with all of this is some of these backpacks are between $200 and $500, and I feel like there's this bit of, rightfully so, fear right now. So parents are buying it because they're desperate, right? Whatever I can do to protect my kid. But I do see the problem with that is educate yourself a little bit in the sense of if they aren't protecting you from a lot of the guns that typically we see in mass shootings. I'm just saying from a financial point of view, and you could say all day, I mean, of course your kid's life is worth anything, but if this backpack is not going to protect a child in the shooting,
So explain how it works, because the backpack, you know, they throw it on their back, but there are different things that the manufacturer is saying you can do with it.
Yeah, and some of these backpacks come with inserts telling you how it works, how you can use it. In some of these cases, in many cases, people are running away, right? So you can grab the backpack, pull it up, and that kind of shields your head. If necessary, you could put it in front of you, and if you can't move, the manufacturers say, well, you could put it in front of you and kind of crouch behind it. But as you said, I mean, there are a lot of critics that point out, these backpacks don't protect against some of the guns that we see in these mass shootings. At least some of the bullets that we see are shot from these guns. But yeah, people are weighing in from on our Facebook page.
If we're all following on Facebook, if one of you, and I stole your phone.
That's okay, I can
we're
pull it
using
up.
my phone for the Instagram feed. I don't know if one of you can pull up our Instagram feed right now just so we
Sure.
can view those comments as well. But yes, a lot of people weighing in. Lenore, for one, she asks, how much does a bulletproof backpack weigh? She doesn't ask about the cost, she asks about the weight because she says our kids' backpacks are already crazy heavy. She's just wondering how much of a weight difference is there. And then she says her claim is that handguns can be stopped with a thick binder full of papers, books, etc., by the way. I certainly don't know that to be true.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on proximity and how far away the gun is fired from. That's probably got a little bit to do with it. In terms of how heavy these backpacks are, I'm unsure, but I do know that there are some inserts that you can put in that are relatively lightweight. They're not, super heavy, but the types of inserts that would stop the more, assault rifle type guns, those are the ones that would be heavier duty and heavier in weight.
Well, people are weighing in. I know Joanne Romanaggi is a teacher, and she says they, being the backpacks, are usually left in lockers when most shootings happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Good point. I mean, we asked earlier, I think it was you that was asking Christine, do they need to carry these around then 24/7?
Well, and they have to have the wherewithal, even at that age, to think like, okay, this is happening. Let me grab this bag and use it when they're panicking. I mean, that's the.
It can be largely forgotten, especially if you're in that situation. Sometimes you just don't think, you just react, you run, you don't think to grab the backpack.
But Jamie says, yes, it's a start. We need to improve them and sell more. The cost will go down.
So a lot of people are weighing in. A couple of our Facebook followers, Stephen Walls for one, and Terrell Davis for another, both saying what you said earlier. It's a sad topic. And believe me, we don't want to talk about it. And as a parent, I'm thinking to myself, one, when I say I can't believe, I mean, I never thought that I'd be, unlike yourself, I didn't think when the boys were young that I would be considering a bulletproof backpack when they went to school. Now I feel like, geez, am I not being a thoughtful parent to even consider the idea?
I don't think so. Do they talk about it? I mean, are they worried about it? Because they're 11 now? How old are the boys?
This is their first year of middle school coming up. So they're definitely aware of sort of what's going on in the world, at least more than they were when they started primary school. And when they were going through primary school, all 6 years, they had regular lockdown drills, lockout drills at the school. They know why they're having those drills. They explain it differently to the kindergartners, obviously, versus the 4th and 5th graders. But man, the last thing you want is your kid to be afraid to go to school for those reasons, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you want to have the conversation, but you don't want to beat them down with the conversation, because at some point I want them to feel good about going to school.
Right,
I'm
and
scared about
a
it.
child psychologist did say, there are pros and cons to having these types of backpacks, to giving your child one of these backpacks. The pro would be that you're giving, them a feeling, potentially, of safety, but then the con is that you're exposing, especially those really young kids, to, these terrors that they may not otherwise get exposed to. So, and a lot of people definitely weighing in as well. John Jenks, need to have more officers in the schools to protect our students. Tracy saying that, unfortunately we have to talk about this, but at least there's something there for our children. She's all for it, but she's concerned about the families that can't afford these backpacks, because Ashley, you were talking about how expensive these are. It can range all the way from $100 to $500, depending on what kind of backpack you get.
These are small sample sizes, right? Obviously, the people we have following us right now on Facebook, Instagram, our viewer voice poll earlier this morning. I mean, the viewer voice poll is totally one-sided. 82% of our viewers still weighing in this morning and saying that students do not need bulletproof backpacks, but I feel like the majority of the comments we're getting are in favor of the backpacks. They're in support of. We actually have one viewer, Tracy Martin, watching us right now on Facebook. Good morning. She says, unfortunately, yes, we need to speak about this, but at least there's something out there for children. She's all for it, she says. In fact, she says fundraisers could be held for families who can't afford these backpacks. At least it's something. Some sort of defense.
And I'm going to read this last one here. It's from Joshua. And he says, let's get over this idiotic resistance to firearms and arm the staff. We have the most effective tool for self-defense and won't allow them to exercise their natural right to defense. I'd be curious to hear from any teachers out there what you think about that, and if you're comfortable doing that. My first thought, not being an educator, is that you go to college to get an education degree. whoever knew when you were back in school that you were going to have some kind of like
Firearms
potentially
experience.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a thing that's, I'd be interested to hear your opinion.
I will say that I recently spoke to a teacher at a middle school in the area, and she recently retired. I mean, she's not of retirement age. She just decided to leave, and she says she has other teacher friends who have also left teaching because this is not what they signed up for. Like the pressure, the stress, the fear that this might happen in their school. I mean, the one teacher I spoke to, she went to extra lengths to get, an extra lock, things, a ladder to go out of her, room through the window if necessary. So, school safety is one aspect that is playing into some teachers, apparently, from what this teacher is telling me. Potentially leaving the profession altogether.
No, I've always thought that teaching is one of the hardest jobs.
It is.
The fact that you are in charge of a group of, say, 30 kids for 6 hours a day is, when I'm alone with the 2 children, I find that to be overwhelming and daunting at times. You've got a group of 30 that you're in charge of.
Right.
And that's not even considering this issue, this safety, this gun issue. I'm curious about our viewer voice poll only because that thing hasn't changed in the time we've been up here. So I'm wondering if it's actually still active. And I've got our producer, Brian, in the studio now holding the phone because we're not going Nina style. He's holding it for us. So I don't know, Brian, if that's, or Brian Matthews, our director, if that's active or not, because the number hasn't changed.
And while we look at that, I know that you come from a law enforcement family. You've got military, you've got police. Can you give anybody any insight? Because Joey, for example, says, every kid, should have a bulletproof vest, backpack, and he says a Glock 40. But what I want to know is, we were talking earlier about what police wear,
right,
and their helmets and their vests, and even those don't always stop the high-powered stuff.
Right. I can't speak. I'm not a firearms expert by any means, and I can't speak to other departments, but I know a lot of police departments, their tactical vests, for example, won't stop high-powered rounds. It's like we're talking about handgun rounds, and so we have a lot of friends who will spend couple $1,000s of their own money, officers, to buy inserts for their bulletproof vests that can stop the high-powered rounds. And I asked my husband, I'm like, what's the difference? Because I don't know all of that. And he said, well, there's, it's kind of complicated, but he said they're essentially these really well made, and you can Google them, like ceramic. I don't know how they're made, but there's a difference in what comes in most vests and what you can buy from reputable, firearms companies and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, even police don't have some of this. So when you talk about backpacks stopping these rounds, I mean, a lot of officers aren't even protected from that sort of thing.
I think that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
because I don't think most people would know that.
Yeah, and in these backpacks are pretty much the same inserts that a police vest might have. At least one of the people who makes these backpacks says it's the same thing.
And you can, I'm sure you can buy those for backpacks too, but they're very expensive, and then it comes down to really teaching your kids how to use them and use them properly when under duress or in panic. So I think it's so complicated. Man, it just sucks that we have to talk about that, but...
Ginny Carlson says the amount of kids with high anxiety already is horrible. Systemic change is needed.
Yeah.
And just before Ginny weighed in, we heard from Joe. Joe was watching this morning on the Facebook feed. Joe says, we protect our money with guns, we protect celebrities with guns, we protect politicians with guns, we protect our children, though, with guns-free zone signs in front of our schools. So obviously I know where Joe stands on this issue, and you're right, we're having this conversation. I knew people would weigh in and have comments, which they are, and we thank you for watching us, for contributing to the conversation, but I don't think enough people are having this conversation. I literally was listening to my wife on the phone with another mom talking about, hey, are you getting, I won't say the boy's name, but are you getting so-and-so the 3 pieces of loose leaf sheets for middle school, or the 4? Are you getting the 3-ring binder or the 4? There was no question of it. And does he have the bulletproof backpack or the regular one? I mean, it's not, I don't think it's happening in everyday normal back-to-school conversations. And we should. That's not to say it shouldn't.
No, and I agree. And in the grand scheme of things, it's still not like it's happening
everywhere.
I mean, it is a huge problem. I mean, just, you cannot overstate that, but it isn't.
Right.
Like every single school
Yeah.
is being touched by this, so I can understand, their point.
Right. And I mean, there's probably not one person, I'm guessing, on the feed right now who can claim to have bought one of these bulletproof backpacks for their kids. If you have, obviously we'd love to get your perspective on it, but I'm guessing we don't have one of those individuals, at least watching us right now. Joshua Dunham makes one more comment about the cost of steel plates and this, that, and the other. This is a conversation we can continue to have. It is 7:15. We can lighten the mood if you'd like before we leave for the day. And Christine,
why not?
by all means, you should stick around because you've covered this heavy topic all day. There was a lighter one we had on our Sunrise show, which was the fact that today is Left-Handers Day.
Hello.
I didn't ask you, the only one I don't know, righty or lefty?
Righty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All of
definitely not left.
Except someone behind the camera is a lefty.
Brian, you're a left-hander?
Producer Brian.
Grant, you're not, are you?
So Grant can actually show Brian for those watching on the Facebook.
Yeah, Brian's doing the whole. Are you doing Instagram, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah. Phone for Instagram.
I did a little research. It depends on where you look for that research information. Does that make sense? I guess there have been different studies.
Depends what you Googled.
You see anywhere from 12% to 15 or 18% of the population is left-handed.
Okay.
I think the most common number is around that 12%. But it does say that men are more likely to be left-handed than women. In fact, another study showed that men are 23% more likely than women to be left-handed, so couldn't really come up with a reason why that might be, but it's just something that's out there. More male lefties than female lefties. And we had some fun on the street. So again, if it's your day, happy day to you. If you're a lefty, let us know. What is the most common trouble that you run into as a left-hander? What in this world is difficult for you because it is a right-handed world and you are a left-hander? So let us know, what is the most common problem you run into as a left-hander if you are a lefty?
Just writing, right?
Writing in a
What would you
notebook.
say, Brian? Because you like
Notebook?
smear the ink.
Well, for me, it was always writing. Nobody can hear me.
No, they can't
They
speak
can hear
up.
Nobody can. You can't write when there's like a ring binder because the ring's like.
Oh, yeah, on the wrong
Oh,
side.
yeah. You're right.
That would make sense.
Ringless binder, Mama,
And it was
please.
kind of funny because you mentioned, you were talking about your story and you used the term southpaw. And Ash was like,
like,
what?
what?
I don't know
is
what that is.
southpaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never
And
heard that before.
It's a left-hander, but I always have heard it in context of like a boxer.
Yes.
He's a southpaw.
Yes, because in boxing, there's a serious advantage for a left-handed fighter. It basically turns the right-hander around. They're used to protecting that like right jab,
Sure.
or the left jab and the big right
Yeah, I
hand.
know, right?
No, they never do it.
That face is worth a lot of money.
So they basically have to turn around their whole defensive strategy, and you'll see there are some right-handers who will not fight a left-handed fighter. It's just too opposite from what they're
interesting.
used to,
Yeah.
what they train with. The most famous southpaw of all time, I would say, was Rocky Balboa.
Oh, there you go, your favorite.
And all these years I've watched Rocky, I never really came up with a reason why they are called southpaws.
Until we Googled
Until
it this
Brian,
morning.
producer Brian, brought this in.
In the original Rocky, before anyone tells me, I know, in the original Rocky, he claims it's because there was a fighter from New Jersey who was left-handed, and they said he was from South Jersey, so he's a southpaw. But you found something, and Brian found some information that it actually goes back to baseball, and that the pitcher, when they were on the mound as a right-hander, their arm would be facing, I guess, to the north, but a lefty turned around, their arm would be facing to the south. So that made them the southpaw. So it actually dates back to a baseball term.
Interesting.
Okay.
In reference to pitchers.
Didn't
Now you
know.
know.
I know.
And you'll see the big difference. We talked about in the world as a whole, there's roughly 12 to 15% of the people that are left-handed. But in the sports world, there are far more lefties than that. And I think because there are, again, some natural advantages to being
Yeah.
lefty.
Throws everyone else
It's
off.
tough to face a left-handed tennis player. It's tough to face a left-handed boxer. If you're a batter, it's tough to face that left-handed pitcher because you're so used to seeing the ball coming out of here, and now suddenly it's coming out of here.
Right.
They're just
What
is
did
some
the Willow
advantages.
Creek girls show you? The softball. Didn't they do
Yes.
like a left hand
I didn't know about
like,
this move.
trick to get to first?
In softball, there's a move called the slap.
The
Oh, yeah, slap
That's
hitting.
right.
Slap hitting.
That's right.
And if you do it, you're a slapper. And it really is for a left-hander because a lefty is already closer to first base
Okay.
than a right-hander. A right-hander is closer to third when they're batting.
Okay.
A
Oh,
lefty
yeah,
is closer
you're
right.
to first. And so they start basically running towards the ball before it reaches the plate.
As they're
They
hitting.
stand back in the box and they start stepping towards, and as they make contact, they're already running towards first base.
And that's all legal.
And that's legal, and they get those, even those 2 steps of an advantage might get them to first base safely.
Huh.
Yes. Did any
more
left-handers
you
chime
know.
in? Because if they didn't, we're turning off the Sunrise
No.
Extra program.
They did not.
Are there really not a single left-handed person in the bunch out there? Is there not a single?
Somebody on Instagram
Thank you.
just chimed in and said, I'm a lefty.
Okay,
And
on
who is it,
Instagram.
They have kind of a username I can't pronounce.
Because it's foul language, or
No,
because
it's
you
just-
actually can't pronounce it?
It's Ninsu2.
Okay.
Okay, so somebody weighed in on Instagram saying they're a lefty as well.
An odd name from an odd-handed individual. Thank you for watching us on the stream this morning. Well, if you know someone who's left-handed, please wish them a happy Left-Handers Day.
There
And
you
with
go.
that, we can wave goodbye with our left hand gang.
Cheers.
Oh, this is weird. Okay.
Tomorrow we will see you here again. Have a great day.
See ya.